All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're digging into this really dramatic story about the final years of a legendary king's reign. It's all about how an aging ruler has to confront the ghosts of his kingdom's past to save its future from famine, a nasty curse, and, yeah, the last of the ancient giants.
So, picture this. The story opens on a kingdom in total crisis. The land of Israel, ruled by the famous King David, is in the grip of this devastating famine. People are starving, the fields are totally barren, and the king is just desperate for answers. What is going on?
And we're not talking about just one bad season here. For 3 straight years, the rains just stopped. The crops withered. David, facing this complete disaster, knew this wasn't just a normal drought. He realized he had to seek a divine answer for why his people were suffering so much.
The answer he got back was chilling. The famine wasn't because of anything David had done. No, it pointed to an old, unresolved crime, a debt of blood left behind by his predecessor, King Saul. See, in this ancient worldview, a king's sin could literally become a curse on the entire land.
So who exactly were the Gibeonites? Well, the text tells us they were survivors of a neighboring people. Centuries, and I mean centuries earlier, Israel had sworn this sacred oath to protect them. But King Saul, in what's described as a misguided zeal for Israel, completely violated that treaty and tried to wipe them out. He broke an ancient promise with blood. To lift this curse and finally bring rain back to his starving kingdom, David knew he had to make things right. So he calls in the surviving Gibeonites and asks them this really direct, really humble question. What can I do for you? How can I possibly make atonement for this? And wow, what a question. I mean, what price could ever be high enough for something like that? The Gibeonites made it super clear they didn't want silver or gold. That wasn't going to cut it. Their demand was for something way more severe, a kind of justice that was rooted in that ancient idea of a life for a life. Their demand was just chillingly specific. This wasn't just random revenge, it was deeply symbolic. They wanted 7 of Saul's male heirs, and they wanted them executed and their bodies exposed in Gibeah, which was Saul's own hometown. This was going to be a public reckoning for a crime that can no longer be hidden. 7 descendants. Now that number wasn't random at all. In this culture, the number 7 often represents completeness or finality. This was meant to be the full, final payment, the thing that would finally settle the blood debt and cleanse the land once and for all. Faced with this absolutely terrible choice, David agreed. He handed over 2 of Saul's own sons and 5 of his grandsons. The only one he spared was the son of his best friend Jonathan, because he was honoring a different, personal oath he'd made years ago. So the price was paid. But what happens next? Oh man, it's one of the most powerful and heartbreaking acts of devotion in the entire story, and it all centers on a mother's unbelievable grief. While the bodies of the 7 men were just left exposed on this hill, one person refused to abandon them. This was Rizpah. She was a former concubine of Saul, and more importantly, she was the mother of Armoni and Mephibosheth, 2 of the men who had just been killed. She lays out this piece of sackcloth, a symbol of deep mourning, on a rock and just starts her vigil. And she stayed there day and night for what had to have been months, from the start of the harvest right up until the sky finally opened and the rains began to fall. Her act was this silent, profound protest. She wasn't just grieving, she was actively protecting the bodies of her sons and their relatives, giving them a dignity in death that they had been denied. And this quiet act of love and honor, it did not go unnoticed. When word of what Rizpah was doing reached King David, he was deeply moved. He ordered the bones of all 7 men, plus the bones of Saul and Jonathan, which had never been properly buried, to be gathered and given a royal burial. After that final act of closure, the text says God finally answered their prayers. The curse was lifted. But peace? Not yet. The old wars weren't quite over. Okay, so the curse is lifted, the land is finally healing, and then a different kind of storm starts together. An old enemy, the Philistines, sees an opportunity, and they show up with their most fearsome weapons, the last of the giants. But here's the thing. This is not the young, fearless David who took down Goliath all those years ago. The years of being king, of fighting wars, they had taken their toll. In a new battle, the text says David just gets exhausted, and he's almost killed by a giant named Ishbi ben Nob. It's this brilliant picture of the harsh reality of time. The legend was now just a mortal, aging man. One of his loyal men saved him at the very last second. And after that close call, his commanders came to him and basically made him swear an oath. They told him, "You are the lamp of Israel, the guiding light of our nation. You are way too important to risk on the front lines anymore." His time as a warrior king was officially over. So if David, the original giant slayer, is now sidelined, who in the world is going to face the rest of these giants who were taunting Israel? Well, it turns out a new generation of heroes, mentored and inspired by David himself, was ready to step into the fight.
And the text just lists them out like this awesome roll call of new heroes. You've got Sibbecai, who takes down a giant named Saph. Then Elhanan defeats the brother of the original Goliath. And then David's own nephew, Jonathan, kills this massive guy who was famous for having 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. One by one, they took them all down.
And this right here, this is what's so important about this final chapter. The war against the giants wasn't won by David's own hand. His ultimate victory was actually seeing the courage in the men he had raised up. His strength was now multiplied through them.
And that leaves us with this final, really powerful thought. This story tracks this incredible transition, right? It goes from a kingdom that depended on the strength of one single hero to a kingdom defended by the collective strength of many. And it makes us ask, what's the true measure of a leader's legacy? Is it what they accomplish all by themselves, or is it the strength they build in the people who come after them?